The first rider was already climbing the ridge when Abel Underwood lowered his Winchester and held out his empty hand. "I can't promise forever," he told Jovita, "but I can get you and your sister home if you choose the trail before Jasper reaches us." Fanny clung to Jovita's shoulder, shaking so hard that their sleeves trembled together. Behind Abel stood a dun gelding and two weary remounts, all three blowing dust in the last light. Far below, camp lanterns swung between the cedar wagons, and Wendell Jasper's voice scraped up the slope. "They owe for transport! They owe for the board!" Jovita kept herself between Fanny and the rifle. 6 months earlier, she had believed in advertisement promising honest work. Since then, every promise made by a man had arrived with a charge beneath it. Abel did not come closer. His hat shadowed a weathered face, and his Winchester 1873 remained pointed at the earth. He looked dangerous. More troubling, he looked patient. Jasper soared higher. 2 camp riders spread out behind him. Jovita had a rusted knife hidden in her skirt. It would not stop 3 rifles, perhaps not even one determined man. She did not take Abel's hand. "Cypress Hollow," she said. "That is home." He gave one short nod. 3 ways out. The river trail is quickest, but exposed. The western ridge goes blind after dark. The north cut is thorny and too narrow for mounted men. He glanced from her to Fanny. Which? The question unsettled Jovita more than a command. Jasper had spent half a year deciding where she stood and what she owed. This stranger held every advantage. Yet he waited. "The north cut. North cut it is," he whistled. The dun gelding came to him, followed by the 2 remounts. Abel took the lead rope and put the string between the women and the climbing riders. "Stay close to Bishop," he said. "Step where I step." Jovita caught Fanny's hand. They followed him into the cedar. The cut was scarcely a trail. Juniper clawed their skirts and limestone rolled beneath their boots. Whenever Jasper's men called from the ridge, Abel changed direction before the echo died. For the first hour, he spoke only when speech mattered. "Duck! Rock under your right foot. Let Bishop test it." Calm could be another kind of trick. Still, Jovita began putting her boots into Abel's prints, and each one held. The moon was high when they dropped into a dry creek bed. Fanny sank to her knees in the sand. Jovita remained standing because someone had to. Abel set a tin canteen on a flat stone midway between them, then backed away. "Slow," he said. "Let her drink first." Jovita almost snapped at him. Then she saw he had turned aside to check the remounts, granting them the privacy of thirst. She let Fanny drink first. "Mr. Jasper will find us," Fanny whispered. "He has the paper. He said the law will read his figures and send us back." "He has lies written neatly," Jovita said. "That does not make them true." Fanny pressed both hands to the torn lining of her dress. "I took something." She pulled out half of a leather-bound ledger. Pages hung from the broken spine. Jovita had known Fanny slipped into Jasper's tent before they ran, but not why. "Fanny, I thought we might need proof." Abel stopped beside the horses. His gaze settled on the names, charges, and false debts crossing the pages. "We answered his advertisement," Jovita said, watching him. "He charged us for the wagon ride, then blankets, then food. Every payday the debt was larger." Abel crouched at a distance. "A man can build a jail without bars if he owns the figures." Fanny's fingers tightened around the book. "We could leave it." "He wants this more than he wants us." "No," Jovita said. Fanny blinked, but Jovita did not soften. She tucked the ledger back into the lining. "We are not buying our freedom by leaving the others in his book." Abel looked at her for a long moment. Then Jasper will follow past the county line. If that changes your mind, go now, Jovita said. We cannot pay you. I did not ask. You will lose more than sleep. His mouth moved as though he almost smiled. Already losing that. Fanny gave a breath that was nearly a laugh. Abel heard it, but made nothing of it. He pointed north with his chin. Jasper sent a rider toward the stage road before we cleared the camp. The direct way is closed. We swing west around the Pedernales ford. How much farther? A day, perhaps more. Jovita looked at Fanny's boots. Dark stains had spread through the cracked leather. She cannot walk it. Abel stood. He unbuckled his rifle scabbard from Bishop's saddle, slung the Winchester across his back, and led the gelding over. Bishop can carry her. And you. I have 2 sound legs and a poor habit of using them. Again, Fanny made that almost laugh. Abel held out the reins to Jovita. He did not push them into her hand. He waited, as he had on the ridge. A horse was a livelihood and an escape. Jovita closed her fingers around the worn leather. Thank you, Mr. Underwood. Abel, he said. Jovita, she answered, because if he meant to call her by her own name, he ought to hear it from her. They moved before dawn. Fanny rode Bishop while Jovita walked at the horse's shoulder. Abel led the 2 remounts 10 paces ahead, reading ground that looked blank to everyone else. Morning burned the coolness from the hills. Their silence no longer felt like a wall. It became work shared without complaint. When Fanny slumped or Jovita's left leg began to drag, Abel found reasons to stop before either woman had to ask. A loose shoe, a twisted lead rope. Rabbit tracks are worth grave inspection. By the 3rd rabbit, Jovita understood. You question every rabbit in Texas, only the suspicious ones. Fanny laughed properly. Jovita had not heard that sound since winter. Abel looked back with a smile under his beard, then returned to the trail before the moment could ask anything of him. At each fork, he gave Jovita the facts. The wash has shade, but rain north of us would fill it fast. Ridge is hot, but we can see riders. The ridge she chose. Later, left keeps us near water. Right hides our tracks. Right. He never praised her like a child, or corrected her merely to prove he knew better. When the ridge turned punishing, he bore it without complaint. That restraint earned more trust than any speech. Near evening, they reached a switchback cut into a gorge. The ledge was barely wide enough for Bishop. Far below, brown water struck the rocks. We can go around, Abel said. 3 hours. Jovita studied the falling sun, and then him. Men who offered choices often approved only one answer. We take the ledge. All right. He moved to Bishop's outer side. Keep his head toward the wall. Do not fight him if he stops. Fanny bent low over Bishop's neck, one fist buried in his mane. She counted each careful step under her breath, refusing to look toward the gorge. They went slowly. Halfway across, a shelf of shale broke beneath Jovita's boot. Her foot slid toward open air. Abel caught her forearm. His grip stopped her while his other hand held Bishop steady. For one breath, Jovita hung between the wall and the gorge. Then Abel pulled her upright. He released her the instant she had both feet beneath her. Loose shelf, he said, breathing harder than his voice admitted. Jovita pressed her shoulder against the rock. I noticed. That earned the smallest flash of humor in his eyes. Next time, notice sooner. Her laugh came out thin and frightened, but it came. Abel tipped his hat as though she had done him a courtesy, then guided Bishop forward. Fanny reached back from the saddle until Jovita caught her hand, and the 3 of them finished the ledge linked by leather fingers and stubborn silence. They made a cold camp beneath a limestone overhang. Abel would not risk a fire. Fanny fell asleep against the saddle before she had finished chewing hardtack. Jovita sat at the edge of the shelter with her knees drawn up. Abel kept 15 feet between them, Winchester across his thighs, gaze on the dark tree line. "I will take first watch," she said. "You have not slept in 2 nights. Neither have you." "I am accustomed to it." "So am I." His jaw shifted. Jovita prepared for an argument. Instead, Abel took a heavy canvas coat from his saddlebag and placed it beside her. "Wake me when the moon reaches that dead cedar." "You mean to sleep?" "I cannot find Cypress Hollow tomorrow if the rocks start walking." He lay down, hat over his face. Within minutes, his breathing settled. He had trusted her with the trail, his horses, and his unguarded sleep. Distrust had kept her alive. Trust was heavier because it could be dropped. When the moon touched the cedar, she woke Abel. He rose without complaint and took her place. The saddle had been moved to block the night wind from Fanny. Jovita had not seen him do it. She lay down in his coat. It smelled of horse cedar and clean sweat. She told herself she noticed only because she was awake. The lie lasted until sleep took her. At noon, a mission station appeared near the river. Travelers watered animals while a trader sold meals and cloth beside the old chapel. Abel's shoulders tightened at the sight of so many people. "We need grain," he said, "and that camp mark on Fanny's hem must be covered." Fanny looked down at the faintly stamped J near her skirt. Her face emptied. Jovita took her hand. "We go together." Abel nodded. "I will be close." They had nearly crossed the courtyard when an iron chain rattled against the well. Fanny stopped so suddenly that Jovita nearly struck her back. Her breath came shallow. She stumbled into a man carrying flour. "Mind yourself," he grunted. Then his gaze caught the mark on her hem. "You from Jasper's cedar outfit?" Abel stepped between them, broad enough to blot Fanny from view. For one sharp instant, fear fixed the scene in her mind. Dusty hat, battered vest, rifle low. One hand extended as a barrier, while 2 hunted women stood behind him. Then he brought his boot down beside Bishop's hoof and snapped the lead rope. Bishop snorted through his head and knocked over a bucket. The remounts danced sideways, stirring dust and curses across the courtyard. "You hard-headed thief!" Abel barked at the horse. "One quiet stop. That is all I asked." The flour carrier jumped aside. Abel turned on him with the weary irritation of a man burdened by an impossible animal. "Pardon. He has been contrary since bear." "Looks it," the man muttered, and moved away before Bishop could crush his flour. Abel's voice dropped. "Far stall. Buy cornmeal and a shawl. I will keep his wickedness occupied." Bishop, who had gone still the moment danger passed, lowered his head and began nosing Abel's pocket. Jovita stared. "Wickedness? He has a reputation now. Do not spoil it." She almost smiled. "Come, Fanny." Jovita unpicked her cuff, freed the hidden coins, and bought a brown shawl to hide the camp mark. Abel had made room for the errand, instead of taking it from her. He waited behind the ruined chapel wall with the horses. When he saw them, his gaze went first to Fanny, then to Jovita's hands. When the danger passed, Jovita braced one palm against the adobe as the world tilted. Abel uncorked the canteen and handed it to her. He turned partly away, leaving her a patch of privacy, even though no wall stood between them. 5 minutes, he said. Nobody is coming. You cannot know that. No. He glanced toward the courtyard. But I can make 5 minutes expensive for anyone who tries. The hard edge in his voice let her breathe. He was not soft. He was controlled. There was a difference. Rain caught them before sunset. It came hard over the hills, flattening the grass and turning dust to red mud. They found shelter in an abandoned stone sheep pen built into a slope. Most of the roof had fallen, but one corner held. Fanny curled in a dry patch with Bishop's saddle blanket. Abel sat near the opening, working oiled cloth over the Winchester's action. Jovita watched his hands. "You said you could not promise forever," she said. His hands stopped. Why say it at all? Because it was true. Men usually prefer a prettier lie. Prettier lies cost more. Rain drummed against the broken stone. Jovita drew the brown shawl tighter around Fanny. "What do you want from us, Abel?" His eyes lifted to hers. "Nothing you have not offered." "That is not an answer." "No." He looked back at the rifle. "It is the only answer I trust myself to give." Jovita waited. Silence had become another thing they could share without losing ground. At last he said, "I once promised a family I would stay through winter and help hold their herd. A government wagon train offered scouts pay. I told myself I would return before they truly needed me. What happened? Winter arrived before I did. They lost the cattle and the claim. When I rode back, the house was empty. He asked for no pity. That made the words hurt more. So you stopped promising. I stopped asking people to build around a man who might ride away." Jovita studied the scarred stalk beneath his thumb. "And yet you turned from your own road for two strangers." He was quiet so long she thought he would refuse. Then he said, "At first I saw two women cornered on a ridge. Now I keep wondering what your face looks like when nobody is hunting you." The rain seemed louder. Abel continued before she could answer. "I want to see Cypress Hollow. I want to know why you fought 6 months to reach it, but I will not use your fear to bargain for a place there." Jovita's throat tightened. Men at the camp had demanded gratitude or obedience. Abel wanted something too, but refused to collect it before she was free enough to give it. From the corner, Fanny spoke without opening her eyes. "Tomorrow is Mama's memorial supper." Jovita looked over. "You were asleep." "I was resting my eyes. That habit will make you old before your time. I am already 23. Abel's mouth twitched. Fanny opened one eye. "Will you sit with us, Mr. Underwood? Or do scouts only eat where they can escape?" "Fanny." "What Mama disliked, wasted chairs." Abel looked at Jovita, not Fanny. He did not answer. For the first time, Jovita wished he would. The rain eased before dawn. They pushed toward the Pedernales, hoping to cross before the upper water reached the ford. By mid-morning, the river thundered through the canyon. Abel raised one fist, and the little line stopped beneath the cedars. 3 riders waited on the opposite bank. Wendell Jasper sat in the middle, with a rifle across his saddle horn. Mud streaked his coat. His smile was as neat and false as the figures in his ledger. "Thought you might try the back way, Miss Ramsey," he called. "I have your account here. $50 for transport and board. Come across quietly and I may forget the theft." Jovita's fingers found Fanny's. Jasper shifted his attention to Abel. "Cowboy, leave the women and walk away. $10 for returning lost property." Abel's face went still. His Winchester remained lowered, but the angle of his body changed. He stood close enough that his shoulder nearly touched Jovita's, not in front of her, not behind. "Run, speak, or find another crossing," he asked softly. "Even now." Jovita drew a breath that shook once and steadied. "Speak." She pulled the torn ledger from Fanny's dress and held it high. "You want the law?" she called across the water. "Let us bring the sheriff. We will show him where you charged Sarah Higgins for medicine she never saw. We will show him Mary Vance's blanket charged 3 times. We will show him every wage you swallowed." Jasper's smile vanished. "You foolish woman." "No," Jovita said. "Only finished." For 1 clean second, the river was the only sound.
Then Jasper jerked his rifle up. "Get that book." His riders urged their horses into the ford. Abel moved first. He shoved Bishop's reins into Fanny's hands, drew his Colt, and fired once into the muddy bank well below Jasper's horse. The shot cracked through the canyon. Jasper's mount reared sideways, blocking the narrow entry. Abel holstered the revolver at once and cut the rope between his 2 remounts. He struck the lead mare's rump with his hat and gave a "Yah!" Both riderless horses plunged into the ford, panicked by the gunshot and the charging mounts. Water exploded around them. Jasper's men fought their reins as the remounts wedged broadside in the crossing. "Move!" Abel ordered. He caught Jovita's hand. They ran along the near bank toward a cedar-choked notch Abel had marked earlier. Fanny followed with Bishop. One rider forced through the confusion and reached the bank behind them. He swung his rifle by the barrel.
The stock struck Abel's shoulder with a heavy crack. Bishop jerked against Fanny's hand, and the rider's horse danced sideways on the slick bank. Abel dropped to one knee. Jovita did not keep running. She snatched a broken cedar limb from the mud and drove it hard against the rider's horse, not to injure the animal, but to startle it sideways. The horse shied. The man cursed and grabbed for the saddle horn. "Abel!" He rose with his left arm hanging wrong, seized Bishop's bridle, and pulled them into the notch. Cedar swallowed the trail behind them. Jasper shouted from the ford, but the river, the loose horses, and the narrow rocks had taken his advantage. They did not stop until the sound faded. Abel leaned against a tree, breath short. Blood darkened his sleeve where the rifle stock had split skin. "Sit," Jovita said. "We need distance. We need you able to use that arm." He started to object. She gave him the same look she had given the ridge. "Sit." To her surprise, he obeyed. Jovita tore a clean strip from the inner hem of her dress. Her hands were steady as she washed the cut and bound his shoulder. Abel watched her work without pretending the wound did not hurt. "You came back," he said. She tied the cloth. "You asked me to choose. I did not mean between sense and foolishness. You ran toward 3 armed men for women you had known for 2 days. That was different. Because you are a man? Because my foolishness was planned." Despite everything, she laughed. Abel did too once, through his teeth. The sound loosened something inside her. Fear remained, but it no longer owned the whole country ahead. They walked for the rest of the day. Abel had lost both remounts, the animals he was paid to deliver near Blanco. His contract was gone with them. His shoulders stiffened, yet he never spoke of the cost. Jovita did. "You lost a season's work." "I lost 2 horses belonging to an outfit that can afford better judgment." "They were in your charge." "So were you." The answer warmed and angered her at once. "I was never in your charge." Abel stopped. He looked genuinely stricken. "No, you were not." The apology came without defense. He removed his hat, as if speaking in a room where respect mattered. "You asked for a trail," he said. "I chose to walk it. That is what I meant." Jovita held his gaze. "Then say what you mean the first time." "I will try." It was a small promise. Because it was small, she believed it. Cypress Hollow appeared at dusk beneath a stand of ancient trees. The log way station stood back from the road with a sagging porch and a hand pump behind the kitchen. Dust filmed the windows, but the roof held, and the cypress shadows lay exactly as Jovita remembered. Fanny made a broken sound and ran. She reached the porch, dropped to her knees, and pressed both palms to the boards. Jovita could not move. For 6 months, she had carried this place in her mind so fiercely that the real house looked impossible. Abel stopped several yards behind her. "You are home," he said. Jovita reached into the hem of her skirt and found the iron key she had sewn there before leaving. Her fingers shook so badly that she missed the lock twice. Abel did not take the key. On the third try, it turned. The door opened on stale air, dried rosemary, and old smoke. Jovita touched the table their mother had scrubbed pale. The room was hers, because no one stood behind her demanding payment to enter. When she turned, Abel remained in the yard with Bishop's reins in his hand. He had brought her to the threshold. He would not cross it unasked. "You may come in, Abel." He let out a breath she almost did not hear. Then he tied Bishop to the rail and climbed the steps. Inside, Fanny found the broom. Jovita opened the shutters. Abel checked the chimney hold water and brought in split wood from the shed. He worked mostly one-handed and denied needing help until a log rolled across the floor. Bishop thrust his head through the open window and tried to steal it. Fanny pointed the broom. "Your wicked horse is robbing us." Abel caught the log with his boot. "His reputation has become a burden." Jovita looked from horse to cowboy. "You built it." "Then I accept responsibility." It was such a solemn answer to such nonsense that Fanny laughed until she had to sit down. Jovita joined her. Abel stood in the middle of the dusty room, holding a log, baffled and pleased. For a few minutes, the house sounded alive. Fanny lit the old oil lamp on the mantel. When darkness gathered, Jovita laid the torn ledger on the kitchen table. "I will take this to the sheriff," she said. "Then I will send word to the mission and the stage stops. Cypress Hollow used to feed travelers. It can do more now. Women leaving the camps can sleep here without signing away their wages." Abel leaned against the mantel, favoring his shoulder. "The high route from the mission is safer than the river road. Hard to find at night." "Then I need it mapped." "I can do that." She looked at him. "I did not ask you to." "No." He straightened. "I am asking whether you would let me." He offered knowledge for work she had chosen, not protection as ownership. "On one condition," Jovita said. "What condition?" "You teach me the route." Abel's answer came at once. "Done." Fanny set a cast-iron pot on the hearth. Cornmeal, dried meat, and wild onion made a poor memorial supper, but it was hot, and nobody could charge them for the bowl. Fanny placed 2 plates on the table. Then she stopped and looked at Jovita. Abel had already taken his hat from the peg. The danger was over. The pull to leave showed in the set of his mouth. He stood like a man expecting the door to close before anyone had asked him to go. Jovita opened the cupboard and touched their mother's heavy blue plate. Her fingers stopped on the rim. 6 months at Jasper's camp had taught her the cruelest version of caution: need nothing from a man, and he could never turn kindness into a debt. Inviting Abel to stay meant trusting that the lesson could be wrong. Yet he was already walking toward the door rather than claim 1 inch she had not freely given. Jovita lifted the plate. "The promise is finished," she said as she set it opposite her own. "You brought us home." Abel's hand tightened around his hat. "You owe us nothing. You do not have to guard the road tonight." His gaze dropped to the 3rd plate. Jovita's courage on the ridge had felt simple beside this. Then she had been choosing between dangers. Now she was choosing what she wanted. "But I want you at this table," she said. Not because we need a rifle. Because the house gets too quiet when you step toward the door.
Fanny became deeply interested in the stew. Abel looked at Jovita as if she had placed something fragile in his hands.
I want to stay, he said. His voice was rough, but it did not waver. Not as your guard. Not until you can repay me. I want to wake here tomorrow, teach you that high trail, and earn the right to ask tomorrow night again. Jovita crossed the small space between them. Then stay tonight. And tomorrow, ask me when you come back. A slow smile changed his whole face. He hung his gun belt beside the door, not as a surrender, but as a man laying down the thing he no longer needed at supper. Then he sat in the third chair. Under the table, his bruised hand rested open beside his knee. Jovita placed her palm in it. This time, neither of them was running. The next morning, wagon wheels rattled up the road before the coffee boiled. Abel reached for the Winchester. Jovita touched his wrist and went to the window. A laundry wagon rolled beneath the cypress trees. Polly Ingram drove with 3 women from Jasper's washing vats crowded behind her. Their dresses were dirty. Their faces were frightened. But no guard rode beside them. Polly jumped down, holding a packet of receipts. "Jasper is in the county jail," she called. "The sheriff brought him in from the ford after his own riders started blaming one another. He stood in the wagon shouting that we were his property." The old word struck Jovita like a hand against a door she had only just closed. Polly's chin lifted. Then 6 women came onto the boardwalk and named every false charge aloud. The blacksmith asked Jasper which paper gave him ownership of a soul. Nobody answered. Even his bookkeeper stepped away from him. For a moment, Jovita heard only the cypress leaves. Jasper had ruled by making each woman believe she stood alone before his ledger. In town, their voices had met. His power had not survived the sound. Polly held up the receipts. "While his men were chasing you, we opened the lockbox. The lumber company paid our transport months ago. He charged us again and kept the wages." The papers confirmed what the women had already done, stopped believing his figures. Jovita came off the porch and took Polly's hands. "There are others," Polly said. "At the charcoal camp, maybe farther north." "Bring them," Jovita answered. "We have water beds once we mend them, and a road that does not pass Jasper's gate." She looked back. Abel stood on the porch, his injured arm in a sling Fanny had tied too neatly. Pride warmed his face, but he made no move to speak for her. "Scout," Jovita called. "Yes, ma'am. After breakfast, you show me the high road." His smile returned. "Your trail." A week later, Cypress Hollow had 4 repaired bunks and a chalk mark beside the door counting meals served without debt. Fanny claimed Bishop preferred her biscuits. Abel claimed the horse had standards. Neither statement survived examination. At dawn, Abel saddled the gelding, while Jovita checked the rolled map in her pocket. He had drawn the high route once. She had made him draw it again while she watched. Now they were riding it together to mark water and shelter for the next women who came north. On the porch, Abel handed her a hammer. "The shed roof needs another board before the rains," he said. "Are you fixing it?" "I'm showing you where not to strike your thumb." "That sounds less useful than fixing it." "It will feel more useful after you strike your thumb." She took the hammer. "Your confidence is touching. Your house, your thumb." Fanny laughed from the doorway. Abel mounted Bishop, then looked down at Jovita. He no longer wore the face of a man measuring the quickest road away. "I will ask now," he said. "May I come back to supper?" Jovita put one boot in the stirrup of the borrowed mare Polly had brought from town. "Only if you bring both horses home this time." "That is a hard condition." "Then ride carefully." He offered his hand. Jovita took it and swung into the saddle. Together they turned toward the high trail. Every evening he rode back, and every evening she opened the door.